I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you for asking me. I think most people found this to be a really troubling week. Most Alanons found this to be a really troubling week, regardless of gender or political association. As an ACA, as a person who grew up in an alcoholic home, it was really, really difficult for me to watch what happens when you try and speak up about something that was unjust, something that happened a long time ago, something that might be deemed untrue because maybe your memory is incorrect. It was really, really hard, I realized, for me to watch what happens if you say something and maybe no one's going to listen. Or maybe you're going to be told that you're being too much, that your feelings are too big, that they're disproportionate to what happened. That the idea that you could find a way, you could find the language to say what you needed to say, and it might not matter. And I realized I was in big trouble because I got really quiet. I started avoiding social media. I had to ask someone at work one day, let's not talk about that. I'm not going to be able to do my job properly if I open that up. And I could see that over the last several weeks, I'd become quieter and quieter on all platforms. I was sort of isolating. And it was like walking through that Blueprint for Progress book. I was watching my own behaviors of what I do when I'm confronted with something that feels larger than me. Thank God I have enough recovery that we have this meeting today. I'm so thankful that you're all here. For the newcomers, this is self-care. This is how we do it. I know that there's people that I can reach out to. I know there's people that I can sit with and I don't have to talk. I can just be quiet. I can process in my own time, that I don't have to hurry anymore, that if I don't fix the situation really quickly, it's not going to explode. That the problems that were lighting me up this week are not actually my problems. They're triggering my problems and they're triggering my history. But today I'm a full-grown adult, and I have the time and I have the resources to take care of it. So what I thought I wanted to talk about today is the tool that I've been using, because I'm on step 11. Step 11 is about meditation. And I think almost everyone has a period of their life where they're like, ugh, meditation. I don't really want to bother. I don't want to sit quietly with a candle in the bath and try and find myself. I want to be able to find myself when I'm in that really confronting situation. And my history with meditation is long. I probably started about 25 years ago in the bath with a candle, sitting cross-legged, trying to be a yogi, thinking it had to be pristine and it had to be very specific. And over time, particularly with program, with recovery, I was told early on that step 11, thank you, is the only step that you can do out of order, that you can start a meditation practice at any time, that you can try for conscious contact with God at any time. And it was relieving to me because my meditation practice has changed so much. There was a period of time where I went walking, the first set of large deaths that I had in my life. Someone told me to walk off my grief. So I would do a 30-minute walk every morning, and on Sundays I would do like an hour-long hike. And the process of doing something physical was really relieving to me. If the point of meditation is to sort of clear your mind, is to get quiet, doing something physical was really helpful. I think it's a completely Western idea that we have to do it in this little frame. The house that I grew up in, the biggest problem that I had, I've realized now, is that I wasn't heard. Someone in this meeting recently said something about, in order to feel love, you need to be seen, you need to be heard, and you need to be cared for. That was really moving to me. I carried it around for weeks like a mantra. I was seen in my house. There was an alcoholic, there was a rageaholic, there was a gambler grandparent, there was a shit ton of Alanonism. Every single person rearing me growing up, including my teachers, including the religious people, including my grandparents, everyone was an Alanon. Everybody had problems connecting and feeling safe when they were being emotional. So I was seen, and I know I was seen because it was often used against me. It was often thrown back at me what I was doing, or it was thrown back at me what I was trying to do. And I was cared for in the idea that there wasn't a lot of neglect. I got to school on time, I was fed, I was clothed. But I was not heard. They had an idea of who they were. They had an idea of who I was. And if I said anything that bucked up against the idea of who they were, it wasn't accepted. If I said anything that bucked up against the idea of who they thought I should be, it was rejected. Sometimes it was rejected violently. So the thing I work on the most is hearing myself now. And I think that's what the meditation is. I think meditation is a time for me to be quiet, to hear where I'm at. It's evolved so much over time because I'm figuring out how to hear myself. It doesn't have to be in such an orderly fashion. Conscious contact with God, the second part of the step as far as I understand it, is once I can hear myself, then I know what I want to ask for. Then I know what I want to receive. So I look at them as two pieces, and I don't have to do them for a very long period of time. A teacher I had somewhere along the line talked about a 40-day meditation once. Every major religion has a 40-day period in it. The idea, I think, was supposed to be that it takes 40 days to change a habit. So I have incorporated my meditation practice into 40-day segments, because often the thing that I'm toying with in my head is part of a story. It's part of a narrative. It's part of a story that I mostly made up as a child when I was forming my opinion of how I was going to be safe. So I have to change the whole habit. I have to change the whole story. And if I give myself the 40 days, it's enough time to keep looking at one issue. An example of this, I want to say, in the last 2 years, I had sort of like a fantastical midlife crisis. A whole bunch of things came together to sort of force me to look harder at my program and where I wanted to be. My qualifier died, I left my husband, and I changed my job. And every single one of those pieces I had to move sort of slowly. So I was doing a lot of meditating. And in the 40-day meditations, there was one about where do I want to be, where do I want to live, how do I want to live. Even if I was defining my life currently as it stands in opposition to the house that I grew up in, I was still defining my life by the house I grew up in. So I had to take 40 days to figure out who do I want to be, how do I want to live. I didn't get the answer in 40 days, but I feel like I removed the old story. And as I kept doing it, at one point, there was so much sadness I couldn't access. My mother was my main qualifier. Her behavior was so abhorrent at the end of her life, I couldn't access grief. I felt like she removed that option for me. But it's my grief, so she can't really do anything. So I did a 40-day meditation on what I could miss, pieces. I started to pull it off like petals on a plant to find the way in, to find what I missed originally. What came up next in the next 40 days was a very young version of me at about 7 years old who felt, thank you, highly unsafe. For 40 days, I sat with a 7-year-old version of myself and comforted her every day and listened. And in the beginning, it was going to be for 15 minutes. The first day I sat for 30 minutes. I could not stop crying, and the only way I could get out of it was to say, I'll come back later. I'll do it before bed. On the first day, I sat for 30 minutes in the morning, I sat for 30 minutes at night, and I never stopped doing it twice a day for 30 minutes a day. I had never been able to sit still quietly with nothing but myself in my whole life. Each week, it started to change a little bit. She stopped crying after 2 weeks. Something about age 12 came in after about 3 weeks. Something about age 9 came in after a month. I'd start with my 7-year-old every day, and I'd see everybody else, and I'd hear them. I just gave them some time on the floor. I just let them be heard. And at the end of 40 days, at about day 35, I couldn't find her anymore. It was like she fit in. She got in line with the rest of me. It wasn't like a piece of my soul was left hanging out in the wind anymore. She integrated. And I knew I was okay. So afterwards, I have spent some 40 days looking at different ages, looking for those pieces that push the button that make me go quiet, that make me so still that I'm not sure if I'm going to be okay. And I invite them. I invite them out. I invite them to sit with me, and I'll give them as much time as they need. They never need the whole 40 days, but they have it. Meditation for me now, past that little bit of work, is about 5 minutes whenever I want. It's often in the car. I'm, again, doing a physical activity like driving, and I can just connect. I can feel my own energy. How are you today? What's going on? What am I being quiet about? What am I being aggressive about? Why am I looking at my phone so much? So often when I'm looking for a connection, it comes up like it's my phone, but really I think it's me. And I use the meditation to find my way in. I think that's my time. So thank you. Low. But I will say this for all my fellow triggered Alanons this week, this month, this year, this 2 years, this lifetime. The other form of meditation that I do all the time is writing. When I first started in this program, somebody had said, you're going to write your way to recovery. You're going to write your own story, because we're all writing our own story all the time. And if you do any kind of writing, you know the story always makes sense in your head, and then when you put it down on a piece of paper, it rarely makes any fucking sense without a ton of adjustment to it. It's the same thing when the story's in your head and you say it aloud to another person. As it's coming out, you're like, this isn't working, and you start adjusting the story to get it to a place where it works. And the writing that I do, in one of the shares I heard someone saying about doing a meditation before calling their sponsor. I don't call anyone till I do some form of meditation. Usually it's writing. I write before I go to bed. It was part of my 10th step to sort of clear the day. Let me put down what I think I did really well. What talents, skills, and traits of mine allowed me to do these things well today? What is it that I bring to the table that really got me to flourish today? And then what's outstanding? What's left? What's making me uncomfortable? Which text, which email, which moment with a friend or with a colleague isn't exactly how I want to do things? What do I need to adjust it for myself? Do I need to adjust anything with that other person? It's like a clearing, so that when I start the next day, it's fresh. And if there's anything left over, I know exactly what I want to do with it. I also heard in one of the shares that when a really big thing, thank you, I heard that happens in my life, I know there's a numb period. I can use social media for that numbing period. I can use another human being for that numbing period. Thankfully now with recovery, when I use another human being, it's mostly just to listen to them. I need a little space between the incident before I can even get to a pause to realize I'm not going to think about this on purpose, where the information's trying to come in. But the most important tool I have is to write it down, and I write it down with a pencil if I can, because something about the speed of a pencil or a pen rather than typing it gives me time to process it. Sometimes I start the sentence with one intention, and by the end of the sentence, I'm somewhere else. Each one of these tools helps me to understand where I am before I call the sponsor. That's still another human being. It's not her responsibility to fix me or to tell me. She isn't God. In the best case scenario, she's a vehicle for God to put a message through in a way that I can hear it. But I have to know who I am and where I am before I reach for that other person. Otherwise, I'm a person by committee. All right, that's my time. Thank you.